Hey folks, welcome back. I've got a quick video for you here on the rock picker again. We had a little bit of a breakdown out in the field, and I had a little bit of a breakdown with the recording equipment. Apparently, unbeknownst to me, I had this camera set not recording audio. So we're going to try a little different format here today, where we're going to do a little bit of maybe sped up video without much dialogue, and we'll just see if you guys can enjoy any of the content that way, just watching me tear this thing down and maybe get it back together. We'll see how much fits on the one video. But what the problem is, I'm pointing at here is the inner race on this bearing has an eccentric locking collar, and it's broken off just from use. So we're going to go ahead and get the bearing changed, and I hope you enjoy it. Well, folks, if you've made it this far, I appreciate you sticking in there with me. Hopefully you've gotten a little bit of insight as to how one of these chain boxes comes apart at this point. So I've got the bearing out finally, and what I'm trying to point out here is how these bearings are actually removable from the blocks that hold them. And you can just retain that block, you don't have to buy the whole assembly, and you can just rotate that bearing around in the grooves that it lines up in and take it out and replace it. So you don't need to buy a whole assembly, just buy the bearing piece itself. And you know, these bearings are designed so that the grease will run through those rings that's machined around them. I'm just cleaning out the grease ring there real quick and kind of showing you that the Zerk fitting lines up with that grease channel, which then runs all the way around the bearing. And there's actually a channel on one side of the bearing, and then there's another just hole indexed on the other side of the bearing. So if you have to put it in the reverse way on that casting for some reason, you'll still get grease coming in. So there's your channel, there's your hole, and we're going to go ahead and get a replacement bearing for this side and try to get it back together here. The rest of the disassembly is coming up, and thanks for hanging in there. Well, folks, if you've made it this far, I really appreciate you hanging in there with me. I wanted to take a moment and show you the new bearing next to the old one on the left. And what I'm pointing out here is this eccentric style of locking collar that holds this inner race to the rotating shaft that's being supported by the bearing. And the way this works is the collar has an eccentric profile on it as well. And when you place it on the bearing and rotate that collar, you can see that it will sort of shrink that inner diameter. It offsets the collar against the shaft, and you just put it on there loose, and you take a drift and you rotate that collar around in the direction of travel of whatever the shaft is you're locking it to, and then you tighten up the set screw, and the work of that item will actually tend to just reinforce it being tightened up. If you put them on the wrong way, they'll loosen up with work, and you'll have to get it right after the fact. But they're a pretty rugged design, and they hold up pretty darn well. So I hope this wasn't too taxing for you to go through with just a little bit of soundtrack and some sped up video. It was a learning curve moment for me for sure, and hopefully we'll get it right on the next round of this. I will have a follow-up on how this machine goes back together. Just ran out of time on this video to be able to show the reassembly. So I'm going to show you the old bearing up close real quick. You can see where that race did fracture just from abuse and use, and it's what happens. So thanks again, folks, and we'll catch you on the next one.